After 15 years of pouring my heart and soul into my job at Tech Vantage, I thought I had earned my place. I had given everything, late nights, early mornings, weekends, and holidays, always striving to make the company a success. I had helped lead some of the most groundbreaking projects in the company's history. It felt like the kind of job I would retire from, surrounded by colleagues who respected me and a boss who appreciated the effort I put into everything I did. But I was wrong. The day it happened was like any other. I walked into the office, coffee in hand, ready to face whatever the day threw my way. But as I sat down at my desk, I received an unexpected email. "Please join me in my office." I paused. It wasn't unusual for my boss, Victor, to request a quick meeting now and then, but something about the email felt different. A sense of unease washed over me, but I shrugged it off. I had been with this company for more than a decade, working through highs and lows with dedication. I figured it was just another routine check-in, but as I entered Victor's office, I felt the weight of what was to come. He looked up from his desk, his face serious, eyes avoiding mine. Without preamble, he spoke. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about the company's future, and after much consideration, we've decided that it's time for you to leave. We're going in a new direction." I stared at him, my mind struggling to comprehend what was happening. After 15 years of hard work, loyalty, and dedication, this was how it ended? Just like that? It felt like a punch in the gut. "Victor, are you serious?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly, not believing what I was hearing. "After everything I've done for this company?" Victor didn't look at me. His eyes stayed focused on his desk, and his voice was flat. "Yes, I'm serious. I've made the decision, and it's final." I couldn't believe it. I wanted to scream, to argue, but there was a strange calm inside me. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even disappointment. It was almost as if I had already known this day was coming. There had been too many signs over the last few months. Victor had become more distant, more focused on bringing in younger talent, more dismissive of the work that I had done. In some ways, I had expected this. I had seen the writing on the wall, but I wasn't ready for it to happen so abruptly. No warning, no appreciation, nothing. Victor handed me a piece of paper with details about my severance package. "You'll get the financials, but you're free to go right now. I'll have HR take care of the rest." As he handed me the papers, something inside me snapped. I knew I wasn't going to let this go quietly, not after everything I had sacrificed. I took a deep breath, my hands clenched at my sides, and said, "Okay, but you have no idea what's coming." Victor looked at me, his expression unreadable. "I'm sure you'll land on your feet," he said, his voice almost dismissive. But as I walked out of his office, I didn't feel defeated. Instead, I felt a fire begin to burn inside me. I wasn't done yet. I had a plan, and it was time to put it into action. As I walked out of Victor's office, the weight of the situation started to hit me. 15 years. It felt like a lifetime, and now it was all ending. I passed by the desks of my colleagues, who were too busy with their own work to notice me. That's how little I mattered now. A few minutes ago, I had been the head of one of the company's most successful projects, and now I was just gone. It felt surreal. I walked to my desk, my mind spinning. I needed to pack up my things, but I couldn't make myself move. I sat down for a moment, staring at my computer screen. I thought about all the late nights I had spent working overtime, the weekends I'd sacrificed, the countless meetings where I had been the one doing the heavy lifting. And for what? So that someone else, someone younger, could take my place? Someone who hadn't seen what I had done for this company? I looked around the office, the faces of people who had seen me come and go over the years, but none of them knew the real story, the hours I had poured into this place, the loyalty I had given, the sacrifices I had made for the sake of the company. Nobody knew. It didn't matter anymore. As I began to pack my things into a box, some old photos, a few trinkets from business trips, my favorite coffee mug, I started to realize that this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of something else, something bigger. I had worked for 15 years, and now it was my turn to take back control. I wasn't going to let Victor's decision define me. I grabbed the last of my things, shoved the box under my arm, and walked to the elevator. As I hit the button for the ground floor, I realized that the world didn't stop because of what happened at Tech Vantage. The world kept moving, and so would I. I didn't know what was next, but I knew I was going to find it. I had skills, experience, and determination. I had the drive to start fresh, even if it felt like a punch to the gut right now. I had the knowledge to build something even better, something that would be mine. I wasn't going to stay bitter and angry about what happened. I was going to use it to fuel the next chapter of my life. That night, I went home and sat down at my kitchen table. I took out my phone and opened up the contact list. I had connections, people who respected me and my work, people I had helped over the years. It was time to reach out, to make something happen. I wasn't going to let this setback control me. I had a plan, and I wasn't going to waste time. I called Greg, an old colleague I had worked with for years. He had left Tech Vantage a while ago to start his own tech consulting firm, and I remembered him mentioning a few job openings. It was a long shot, but what did I have to lose? "Hey, Greg, it's Emma. I was wondering if you had any openings at your firm. I'm looking to make a change." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Emma? Wow, I didn't expect to hear from you. Sure, we actually have some positions open. Why don't you come in and we'll talk about what you're looking for?" I smiled, my heart starting to pick up speed. This was the opportunity I needed. I hung up the phone, already thinking about my resume and how I would present myself. I had a new sense of purpose, a renewed determination to show everyone that I could succeed on my own terms. Victor had made his decision, but that didn't mean I had to accept it. I was going to show him just what I was capable of. The next morning, I woke up early with a renewed sense of purpose. I had spent the night updating my resume, tailoring it to showcase my skills in a way that emphasized leadership, innovation, and adaptability, qualities that I had honed over the past 15 years but had never fully been recognized for. I dressed in my best business attire, the kind that made me feel confident and ready to tackle whatever came next. As I walked into the office of Greg's firm, I couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement mixed with a bit of nervousness. This was it. The opportunity I needed. I arrived early, and as I sat in the waiting area, I took a deep breath. I wasn't walking in there to beg for a job. I wasn't desperate. I was walking in there to claim what was rightfully mine. I had earned my success, and it was time for me to take control of my future. Greg walked out to greet me with a big smile. "Emma, I'm so glad you could make it. Come on in, let's talk." We sat down in his office, and I could tell he was impressed by my presence. As we talked, I laid out my experiences, highlighting the projects I had led, the teams I had managed, and the incredible results I had delivered. "What I'm looking for now," I told him, "is the chance to lead. I've spent years helping others achieve their goals, but now I want to be the one setting the direction." Greg nodded thoughtfully. "I've always known you had potential, Emma. We could use someone with your expertise. I think you'd be a great fit for our team." We talked for another hour, and by the end of the conversation, I could tell that the interview was going well. It felt more like a conversation between two equals, something I hadn't experienced at Tech Vantage in a long time. "I'm glad we had this conversation," Greg said, as we wrapped things up. "I think we have a role here that would be perfect for you. Let's get something on paper." I walked out of that meeting with a sense of victory. I wasn't just securing a job, I was securing my place in a company that valued me, that appreciated my skills, and that recognized the work I had done over the years. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I called my husband Mike on the way home, feeling giddy. "I think I did it," I said, excitement bubbling in my voice. "Greg offered me a role at his firm. They want me to start next week." Mike was overjoyed, but I could hear a hint of concern in his voice. "That's amazing, Emma, but what about Tech Vantage? What's going to happen with them?" I paused, thinking for a moment. "They made their choice," I said, my voice steady. "Now I'm making mine. It's time to move on. I'm done letting them control my career. I'm going to take control of my own future." That evening, I sat down with my resignation letter, feeling a sense of finality. The decision to leave Tech Vantage wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I was no longer going to be defined by a company that had thrown me away after 15 years. I was going to define myself by the choices I made from now on. I walked into the office the next morning and handed Victor my resignation letter. He looked up at me, his face expressionless. "Are you sure about this, Emma?" he asked, his voice cold. I stood tall, meeting his gaze. "Yes, I'm sure. I don't work for you anymore. I work for me." Victor didn't say anything. He just nodded, and I walked out of his office for the final time, knowing that I had won. I wasn't a victim. I was a survivor. I had rebuilt my future in my own image, and now I was ready to take on the world. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change. I walked into my new role at Greg's firm with a sense of excitement and determination. It felt like I had finally found a place where my hard work, experience, and dedication were truly appreciated. I wasn't just another employee, I was valued, and that made all the difference. I took charge of projects that I knew I could handle, projects I had been sidelined from for years at Tech Vantage. The difference was that here, my ideas were heard, my opinions counted, and the respect I had longed for was finally there. I wasn't fighting for approval anymore. I was given the freedom to lead, to innovate, and to contribute at the highest level. I quickly earned the trust of my colleagues, and it didn't take long for me to become an integral part of the team. The work was demanding, but it was rewarding. I felt a sense of purpose that I had been missing for far too long. The best part? I didn't have to compromise my values or my integrity to succeed. I was succeeding on my own terms. As I settled into my new role, I received a call from an old colleague at Tech Vantage, Sarah. She had been with the company as long as I had, and she had witnessed everything that had led to my firing. Sarah was quiet for a moment before she spoke. "I heard what happened, Emma. I can't believe they treated you like that," she said, her voice filled with sympathy. "You've always been one of the hardest workers there. You deserved better." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I know, Sarah, but you know what? I'm not upset anymore. It was hard at first, but leaving Tech Vantage was the best thing that ever happened to me. I found something better, something that actually values me." There was a pause on the other end of the line before Sarah spoke again. "I've been thinking about leaving too. I've been there for years, but I'm starting to realize I'm not as valued as I thought. Maybe it's time for me to find a place that respects me." "Do it," I said, my voice filled with conviction. "Find a place where you can thrive. You don't owe anyone anything. You owe it to yourself to find happiness and fulfillment in your work. Trust me, there's so much more out there than we ever realized." A few weeks later, Sarah reached out again. She had made the decision to leave, and she had found a new job with a company that saw her for who she was, a skilled, hard-working individual with valuable experience. It was a bittersweet moment, knowing that the company we had both sacrificed so much for had lost two of its most dedicated employees, but at the same time, I couldn't help but feel proud of her. We both knew we had made the right choice. We had reclaimed our futures. As for me, I continued to thrive at Greg's firm. I led successful projects, built lasting relationships with colleagues, and finally felt the sense of satisfaction that had been missing for so long. I didn't need approval from anyone to feel successful. I had done the work, earned my place, and now I was owning my success. Victor had thought that firing me would be the end of me, but in reality, it was the start of something much bigger, a new chapter where I was in control, and I couldn't have been happier. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the biggest opportunities come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes you have to walk away from everything to find what you truly deserve. The journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it.